Welcome to the EdUFaith Essentials Educational Podcast. EdUFaith Essentials is an educational podcast that provides essential information and tips about education, leadership, and topics about diverse learners. Diverse learners include students with individual education plans, services under the Individuals with Disability Education Act, Section 504 services, English speakers of other languages, and interventions. EdUFaith Essentials' mission is to bring positive awareness to promote equity and inclusion in education by sharing topics about non-traditional learners. EdUFaith Essentials' goal is to restore faith in education one student at a time by empowering listeners with knowledge. We all know that knowledge is power, so let's be powerful. EdUFaith, EDU, education and faith, trusting or believing in one's ability. EdUFaith would love for you to join our family, so subscribe at www.edufaithconsulting.com and make sure you subscribe to the EdUFaith Essentials YouTube page. I'm your host, Dr. Nikia. Thank you for joining me today. As always, sending you good vibes, love, peace, and happiness. Welcome to Season 4 of the EdUFaith Essentials podcast. Today's episode is titled Raising Kids That Succeed with guest Dr. Lynn Wicker. Our EdUFaith inspirational story is titled Reading with Heart, Anthony Parker's Braille Alphabet Lessons. At DeFork School in Baton Rouge, something truly remarkable is unfolding in the 4th and 5th grade classrooms. Anthony Parker, who lost his vision at age of 3, stands before his students not only as a paraprofessional, but as a shining example of resilience and empathy. Having mastered Braille by 5, Parker is now teaching his students the Braille alphabet using raised dots combined with his inspirational personal journey. His mission extends far beyond just literacy. He's opening the hearts and minds of students to the importance of inclusion. As they run their fingers over the raised dots, they're not merely learning letters, they're gaining a new perspective on the world. Parker's presence at DeFork marks a significant milestone. He is the first visually impaired staff member to join the school starting in late 2024. Principal Dr. Nikia Davis describes the impact he's made as transformative. It broadens the understanding of students who are different, she noted, emphasizing that his work fosters empathy for those using assistive devices or living with disabilities. Parker believes that no challenge is insurmountable when fueled by determination, regardless of any impairment. If you have the tenacity and the drive, there's no reason you can't succeed. His lessons are filled with compassion and courage, and thanks to him, students are not only learning to read Braille, they're also discovering how to lead with their hearts. And that story was courtesy of WAFB9 News. I saw that story on Investigate TV as well. The story was also on Twitter, but I was watching Investigate TV and I ran across the story, and then I dove into YouTube to find the story. And I thought it was such a great story to start season 4, such a wonderful story to start back to school as we get into that back to school season. Kudos to that principal. Kudos to Anthony Parker for sharing your gifts. Thank you, Anthony Parker, for teaching our students and working with our students. Such a great story. And that story will be on the EdUFaith Essentials YouTube page. And that is it for our EdUFaith inspirational story for today. Let's recognize our dates to remember for the month of August. August starts the back to school season, and August is back to school month. August is also Spinal Muscular Atrophy Awareness Month, Stevens-Johnson Syndrome Awareness Month, Psoriasis Action Month, Get Ready for Kindergarten Month, National Truancy Prevention Month. August 9th is Book Lovers Day. August 12th is International Youth Day. August 20th is National Accessible Air Travel Day. August 21st is National Senior Citizens Day. And August 26th is Women's Equality Day. Let's continue to make sure we recognize and celebrate inclusion throughout the month of August and throughout the year. And that is it for our dates to remember for the month of August. Now it's time for Essential News. The first story is dated June 2025. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled in AJT versus Osage area schools that students with disabilities no longer need to prove bad faith or gross misjudgment to seek monetary damages under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act or the ADA. This decision lightens the burden of proof and improves access for families facing discrimination. Justice Sotomayor's unanimous opinion underlies the need for robust disability rights protections in education. Legal experts expect an increase in litigation, prompting schools to enhance compliance and collaboration with families. Story 2 is dated June 30th, 2025. The U.S. Department of Education has delayed nearly $6.8 billion in federal funds, including vital IDEA grants, due to technical budgetary issues. This has raised concern among school districts that depend on timely funding for staffing and services, especially amid the existing teacher shortages. Advocates are urging Congress to stabilize IDEA fund to meet the promised 40% coverage of per pupil, which currently is around 13%, warning that the delay could hinder special education planning and impact services. Story 3 is dated June 2025. More than 40 deans from teacher preparation programs urged Congress to invest in alternative certification pathways for special education, emphasizing the need for initiatives like teacher quality partnerships and grow your own program. The Learning Policy Institute notes that 98% of districts report special education vacancies, and educators warn that lack of investment will worsen teacher shortages and impact outcomes for students with disabilities. Story 4 is dated June 2025. Connecticut passed House Bill 5001, which transforms funding and regulation for special education services. The law creates a $30 million seed grant to help districts enhance their programs and limits reimbursement rates for out-of-district placements. It also establishes new standards for transition planning and behavior interventions, aiming for improved transparency and equity and encouraging local school accountability. Story 4 is dated June 2025. The U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights finalized a voluntary resolution agreement with a school district after uncovering serious issues regarding the application of physical restraints. The district had failed to involve the students' IEP teams or 504 teams in its review processes. As part of the agreement, the district is required to implement significant reforms. It must track restraint incidents monthly, ensure ARD 504 committee reviews each case, and updates its policy and staff training to comply with federal civil rights protections. Additionally, the district must promptly inform parents of any restraint incidents and guarantee accurate reporting of the civil rights data in the collection system. Next story is dated June 27, 2025. The Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services under the Department of Education announced a notice inviting applications for the 2025 Personnel Development Grants, which aim to improve services and outcomes for children with disabilities. These grants are specifically designed for minority-serving institutions, including HBCUs and tribal-serving institutions, to promote culturally responsive training for special education professionals. The goal is to enhance educator preparation with improved faculty development, hands-on clinical experiences, and recruitment of candidates who better reflect the diverse student population. This initiative addresses the pressing need to diversify and bolster the special education workforce. With 98% of districts reporting vacancies in special education roles, funding like this catalyzes the creation of sustainable teacher pipelines and help reduce turnover. It enables institutions to develop impactful programs that emphasize inclusive teaching practices and cultural competence, critical factors in enhancing student outcomes and ensuring equity in educational environments. The final essential news story is dated July 2025. The Office of Civil Rights weekly updates on shared ancestry discrimination investigates demonstrate the department's broader commitment to enforcing civil rights across student populations, including students with disabilities. The term shared ancestry encompasses real or perceived discrimination based on ethnic, racial, religious, or national origin, such as anti-Semitism, anti-Asian bias, anti-Arab sentiment, and others. The report issued in June and July 2025 cover both public and non-public schools, colleges, universities, and this reflects the ongoing efforts to address these critical issues. And that is it for Essential News. All the stories will be on the EdUFaith Essentials YouTube page. Now it's time for Essential Knowledge. For Essential Knowledge, you are in for a special treat as we get ready to start a new school year for the 2025-2026 school year. We need to start preparing for back to school and how we're going to be successful. We have our special guest today, Dr. Lynn Wicker, and she is an author, speaker, and teacher. And just to give you a little background about Dr. Wicker, she is a former superintendent and she's my former boss. Dr. Wicker was the superintendent and principal when I served as a special programs director in my first leadership job as a program director who supported inclusive education. Under Dr. Wicker's leadership, I was able to grow and really foster my purpose and learn my purpose into supporting diverse learners. She was an awesome boss. She is a phenomenal woman, and she's very inspirational. And I'm just really, really excited to share her message and present her to you today as our speaker and guest as she talks about her book, Raising Kids That Succeed. Author and speaker Dr. Lynn Wicker has dedicated her life to helping others. Having devoted 30 years to teaching and leading in public education, she brings a unique vantage point to what she likes to call adding value lifestyle. Not only is she considered an expert in the field of education and author of the book Raising Kids That Succeed, she also draws upon her personal story and insights gained through tragedy and triumph as a parent of twin sons born with severe cerebral palsy. Her personal journey, which drew heavily on her strong faith, has inspired and helped many parents face some of life's greatest challenges. Raising Kids That Succeed provides a new way to see yourself as a parent by seeing yourself as a person. It focuses on who you are as an individual before you ever arrive at the impact that you hope to have on your children. Success is guaranteed if you simply open your mind and your heart as you read this book. You will learn how to stop looking for fixes for your kids and come into an awareness of your own beliefs. Without further ado, I am happy to have my special guest, Dr. Lynn Wicker, my former boss, one of my inspirations. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Wicker. How's it going, Dr. Wicker?
Oh, it's going great. And I'm just so privileged, Nikia, to be here. You're right. It's been a long time and we've kind of followed each other's journeys. And I couldn't be more proud of the work that you're doing. So, congratulations on all of that.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's go ahead and dive in because I know you have a lot to share with your career and your parenting and everything. So let's go ahead and start with our first question. And the first question is, what inspired you to write Raising Kids That Succeed? And how did your personal experiences shape the book's message?
Well, excellent question. I've had a lot of people ask me that question. As you know, I spent over 30 years in the field of education from being a teacher, administrator, director, superintendent, and just about the last few years of that full-time career, I realized that I had unintentionally gained a lot of experiences and conversations with parents because obviously they want what's best for their kids. They have challenges of all kinds, anything that you could ever think of. Probably with all the different levels that I served in, I came across. And I realized that I could probably help a lot more people by just putting all that down in some sort of book or message that people could pick up and gain from. So that's what inspired me. And then my own personal experiences in my own parenting. You know, as I've gone through so much growth over my life, professionally and personally, that really shaped who I am and how I show up in the world and ministry that I have, all sorts of things. I realize as I look back over my years of challenges in parenting that I needed somebody to walk alongside me and help me understand, the things I didn't even realize that were going on. So I would say that the book is really a combination of my own growth journey and then all of those experiences that I pulled from being in education for so many years.
Awesome, awesome. And I wanted to ask you just to dive in with your journey. You know, this podcast is all about inclusive education and supporting students with exceptionalities and making sure that we're inclusive. So, do you mind sharing your personal story about students with disabilities and your connection with
Yeah,
inclusion?
sure. Sure. Well, yeah, years ago, back in the 80s, my very first pregnancy, I had twins, which was an amazing surprise. But unfortunately, during that period of time in medical science, they were so premature that they had lots of medical issues. And as the years went by, realized pretty early on before they were 4 or 5 years old that there were cognitive issues as well, cerebral palsy diagnosis. And over the years, Lots of challenges, as you might imagine. To my great dismay and almost just like overwhelming feelings of fear and anxiety when they became old enough to be a part of public school education. Most districts, at least here in Florida, have center schools where kids with these kinds of very complex medical, physical challenges go to school. And I can remember as a young woman, young mom, 24, 25 years old, late 20s by the time they started school, just feeling alone and overwhelmed. And how do I process all of this? And dreams shattered, and yet joys of a different kind being experienced. And it would take me much longer than what we have here today to talk about all of the things that changed inside of me as an individual, as an educator, all of the things that happened through their entire lifetimes. But the good news is that personal journey just tremendously informed me, gave me so much more empathy for parents of kids with disabilities of any kind. And always, I would never share my story, Nikia, with anybody to try and one up them. You know what I mean? On whatever it was they were dealing with. They were sitting in front of me with tears rolling down their face because their child had just been diagnosed with ADHD or dyslexia or some other learning issue or autism, whatever it might be. My heart just went out to them very personally because I knew that every challenge is such a personal, heartfelt challenge. So, in my own journey with my own boys, I think that it gave me just the level of empathy to know that we just have to work with parents and families as individual units for whatever challenges that they're facing, and definitely not lump everyone into the same category because that is it's just not the right way to work. So it taught me to be intentional, personal, value every family's story as an individual story.
I love that. And your story inspired me, as I mentioned earlier. We worked together, so you were my supervisor. And I have a student with exceptionality, my older son, and his journey. He faced some trials and tribulations when we were at the school together, and that's when you shared your story, which made me open up and feel comfortable with you and talking to you and helping make that connection. So I really do admire your story, and I thank you for helping me accept my son's exceptionality. And you empowered me as a parent just to, life is not easy. You have to deal with what's given, but you have to empower and move forward. So I really want to thank you for that. During this time, I want to say that you really inspired me, and your story helped shape my story and push me to where I am today.
Oh, well, thank you so much for that. That's really, I love clasping hands with people and just saying, hey, it's going to be okay.
Yes, yes. Tears, a lot of tears, but we
Yeah. Oh,
made it
goodness.
through.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you emphasize the importance of resilience. How can parents model resilience for their children in everyday life?
Well, you definitely hit the nail on the head when you said modeling. How can parents model? Because really, no matter what character trait or anything, habits, whatever, we're modeling when we're parents. But this particular issue of resilience is, the world is so crazy, complex, busy. Everybody's busy, busy, busy. And then you get blindsided by something, and as a parent, it's like, oh my gosh, like every hour of every day in my life is scheduled. I don't have time to be blindsided by something. And when those things happen, like we can't stop them from happening. And so it's how we deal with those things. What growth have we experienced? What resilience do we have within ourselves? Because that's what's going to get modeled. That's what's going to get acted out to our kids. And we know this about lots of things, like they're watching us, whether we realize it or not. Even the littles, they're watching us and they're like little sponges. And even the subtle reactions that we have. And of course, we're never perfect in anything, but we might have a setback and initially just, kind of freak out for a little bit, but then kind of regain our footing and show some resilience. And the other thing I would say on the modeling piece is have those conversations with your kids. Don't give them the impression that you always have it together 100% of the time, because let's face it, we don't. So even having a conversation, like mom and dad or mom, wow, I just had an amazing thing happen at work today and it was really challenging for me. And so I'm having a struggle with it, but it's going to be okay. I'm going to work through it. And you're really just kind of modeling for them what's going on in your head, what's going on in your emotions, what's going on in your heart. But I think we have to be transparent with them where appropriate. Obviously, there are some things that we might not want to share, but I do believe strongly that there are enough things that are appropriate, age appropriate, and so forth to share with them, like how we're working through our own challenges and struggles to be more resilient.
I agree. We are our child's first teacher. And I agree with transparency 100%. As a parent myself, I always try to be honest with my boys because life is not sugar coated. So
No,
we're gonna have challenges. You're gonna
no,
have
it isn't.
challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're gonna have challenges. So we have to make sure that we're modeling. I love that. How do you deal with challenges? Because as long as we're living, there are going to be things, challenges, obstacles, and things that we have to overcome that's going to help us grow stronger. So I do
Hmm.
like that modeling and letting parents continue to be their child's first teacher.
Absolutely.
What do you see as the biggest challenge parents face today in raising successful children? And how does your book help address it? Because there's a lot of things going on, and just through our evolution, you and
Yeah.
I, in education, is
Yeah,
different from,
absolutely.
when we worked together those years ago to now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, what do you see as
Yeah,
the
very
biggest
true.
challenges? Hmm.
Well, I think, we could sit and make a long list of challenges, right? You just kind of said that of and how things change and all. But I think there are a few basic things that don't really change, which is kind of the whole focus of my book. And that is this thing about we come into being a parent. We're a person first before we're a parent. That sounds really kind of like, you know, obvious, but I think that's the place to start. And I'll get to the challenge piece in just a moment. But to me, we have to set up this idea, this concept that we enter into parenthood with our own belief system, our experiences, our own biases, our own childhood experiences. And when we show up as a parent, all of those things are informing, interacting, impacting now this role that we are now in as a parent. We may be still as a role as a son or a daughter, a
Hmm.
sister, a brother, a spouse, but now we've got this other role as a parent. So I think just like if we dug down deeper, deeper, deeper into this list of challenges, all of those things, how they manifest in other challenges, kind of come back to this thing about how we approach, what is our approach to our role as a parent? And that is a huge challenge. Why? Well, it's a huge challenge because many, many people that I've coached, talked with, are friends with, go to church with, they are so unaware of their deep subconscious attitudes, beliefs, biases, limitations. They're just unaware of them. Like they don't know if you really started digging down into like, well, what do you think is causing you to feel this panic or this fear or whatever about your kids? They haven't really thought about it before. So, and in some cases, parents had a wonderful, emotionally stable, psychologically healthy childhood. And then when that happens, they're just simply wanting to replicate that, right? They want their kids to have the exact same experience. But to your point, culture has changed, right? Our times have changed. So now their
Yes.
challenge is how do I let go of this sense that I need to replicate in them? So that's a huge challenge, even for people that had sort of this. They won the parent lottery. They had great parents, and everything was just wonderful. And on the other side of that coin, for those who did not have that, that there was maybe huge struggles, lack of being parentally supported, no emotional support, all of those things. Well, in the same way, parents will either go overboard and try and do too much for their kids, or it's the other way and they replicate what they experience and they're emotionally absent in those cases. So you've got all these different scenarios, and I think that is the biggest challenge. And I do focus on that in the book is we first have to know, be able to answer the question, and it's a challenge to answer it. How am I showing up in the life of my kids so that I am fully intentional and aware of the decisions and the choices that are being made, that I'm just not acting on autopilot and going with the flow, that I'm not just acting off what I think should be done, but I've really thought about it and gotten some wisdom about those decisions. Now, once that piece is settled, then you can start listing out all these other cultural challenges. And like I said, there's tons of them. And there really isn't a one size fits all solution, I don't believe, for any of those things, except building healthy relationships with your kids where they can come and talk to you about all these other external challenges. And there's, you maintain that sense of transparency that we just mentioned a few minutes ago.
I love that. And I love that you fact that you said we have so many other roles because we are our own person and then parent is a role that you're blessed with,
Hmm.
So how do you navigate that? And then looking at your biases and things like that, it's so embedded in us subconsciously. A lot of us don't even feel like we have any biases or anything like that, but we really do, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Oh,
Something
yeah.
has
Oh,
been
yeah.
modeled in you growing up, for you to have some type of bias. So becoming self-aware of the bias and then also having that healthy relationship of the child. So knowing your parenting role, accepting the parenting role, self-assessment, removing your biases so you don't pass those same biases on to your children, and then having those healthy relationships, those open relationships, because you're right. Communication is key, and you're that person for your child. So you want to make sure that you have that relationship that they can come to you, whether it's good, bad, ugly, happy. They know that they have that landing spot. Otherwise, they'll go
Yeah.
somewhere else.
That's right. They sure will. They sure will. No question there.
Yeah, we want to be that one as parents, and we want to own our role as parents. All right. Can you share a specific story or a success example from the book that truly illustrates your core principles in action?
Well, when I think about this, I'm not sure if this particular story is in the book or not, but it's just kind of been my poster child story for this whole conversation. When I was the director superintendent, standing outside one morning as kids were being dropped off for school, and it was a K-12 environment, so all of that, working on everybody, everything that you can imagine K-12 going on, and a mom comes, running towards me. I did not know her personally, but she comes towards me. She knew who I was, and she just was extremely panicked, afraid, upset. I mean, her body language, her face, everything just screamed all of those things. And so I knew immediately, that I needed to just stop everything I was doing and give her my attention. And I said, hey, good morning. Can I help you? And she said, "Oh my gosh, I'm just having my." She said, "I didn't sleep all night. My daughter didn't sleep all night. She was so upset. I knew I needed to get up here first thing this morning and get this taken care of." And I said, "Okay, what's the issue?" And she said, "Well, my daughter's in the 8th grade, and yesterday the choir teacher informed her that she had made the choir tryouts. She had made choir, and but when she got there." For that class, she realized that she was the only 8th grader in the high school choir. And she's just so upset because, oh my gosh, like she's not going to measure up. She's not going to be able to compete with these older kids. And she went on and on and on and on. And I knew immediately what was going on, right? Lots and lots of fear based limitations. So
Hmm.
I listened to her. I listened to her. And I said, can I just can we just kind of stop for just a second and think about this? I said, I hear your concern and I can see that you're upset and I can see that we're going to take care of this today. But first, can I just offer you a different perspective on this? I said, and can I say it to you this way? You said to me, oh my gosh, my eighth grade daughter is in the high school choir. And then you started telling me all the reasons why that was a horrible, bad thing. I said, what if we said it like this? Wow, my eighth grade daughter is in the high school choir. And begin to think about what that really means. That really means that she's talented, she's gifted. The choir teacher believed in her so strongly that she felt that she was ready, to be there. And Nikia, that mom looked me square in the eyes and she said, "Well, when you put it that way, it sounds kind of silly what I said, doesn't it?" And
Mindset.
yeah,
Agreed. Her mindset.
absolutely. Absolutely. And the reason why I love sharing that story is, it's a real story. I mean, that conversation really happened. And she walked away from me. I said, now, if you still want to pursue a schedule change, we can talk about that. And she's like, oh, no, 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 no. I've got this. She's like,
I-
excuse me. So her daughter's fears had completely sucked mom into all of that fear and anxiety for the whole night before. I mean, this thing got ramped up to a 10 plus overnight, and it just took a shift in thinking. And my point from that story is that when each of us in our lives are aware of these kind of things, and it doesn't matter what your title is. You could be having this conversation with a family member or a friend or a neighbor. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to be a school superintendent to have this conversation with somebody. When you're aware of these things that you can talk to people about, you're literally engaging them in a coaching opportunity. So you're having them rethink, kind of recapture, what they were thinking about, what they were so fearful of, and reframe, the situation. Now, in this particular story, the mom got it, which told me that she already probably knew that there was a different way to look at it and just got caught up in all of her daughters, being upset.
Teenage
And I
daughters
get, yeah,
mindset.
I get that. And I can also say with quite certainty that that conversation could have completely gone the other way. And I've had many, many, many more conversations with situations like that, similar, where the parent did not see a new perspective. As a matter of fact, they dug in, and it's like, no, I just want this to happen. And I don't want to hear, any other options. So I think that's why I call that my poster child story, because it was a success story. And we can learn how to coach people. And I think it's important for all of us as we go through life to be so aware that there are different ways to look at situations, that we're actually able to help people. And I just love that.
I love that too. And I love the way you turned the negative thinking into something positive. You shifted her mindset. She got sucked into that drama
Yeah,
and
exactly. And it's easy to
anxiety.
do, right? It's
Yes,
easy.
yes,
We love
yes,
our kids, and
yes.
we when they hurt, we hurt.
That's
I get
right.
all of that. So it's no judgment here. It's just the fact that, yeah, it
Agreed.
can be turned around.
Agreed. She wanted her child's best interest, but then she just
Yep.
didn't look at the big picture. You show her the
Yep.
big picture, which was awesome. How do you define success in the context of raising children, and how is that different from society's typical definition?
Oh, that's a great question. So in the book I actually created, you got to read the book, okay, to understand all the details behind this. But I talk about four things that I think, when you put them all together, they equal success in raising kids. The first one is thinking. So that just seems again like really, yeah, we have to think about what we're doing, all these things we've been talking about. And then we add some reflection to that. So it's not always going to be easy. We might have to sit on something, marinate in it for a while, mull it over, reflect on it, however that works for you. And then once we feel like we've gotten some answers for ourselves on how to proceed with a decision or something, then we have to be intentional with that. Like I talk in the book about not living on autopilot. We have to be very intentional with what we do when we're looking for certain outcomes. And then we can't just do all of those things and then there's no action, right? So the last piece is take action. And I was challenged in some other interviews that I've done a few years ago about the book to get really succinct with a success definition. So here's what I like to say. Success is being fully resourced and equipped to navigate obstacles, to lead your life so that you can fulfill your purpose and your passion. So when we put our kids in a situation where they are resourced and equipped, and what I mean by resourced and equipped, they have the character skills, the integrity, they have values, they know how to be resilient, and on and on and on and on. That's what I mean by resourced and equipped. Because as we said earlier, to navigate obstacles, there will be obstacles. And they have to know how to use these skills they've gained, their resources, and how you as a parent have equipped them to navigate those obstacles so that then they can lead their life in a way that actually allows them to fulfill their purpose and whatever it is that they're passionate about in life. So, culture's goals tend to be quite different than that because culture's goals can be financial goals, success related to attainment or achievement of some kind, whether or not they've been resourced with character, integrity, resilience, all of those things, perseverance. And so culture has emphasized comfort over growth. So, gosh, I've seen this so many times. I see it all the time. No matter how much time has gone by, I still see it. Parents that are trying to protect their kids from any and all painful experiences. I know you've seen that.
Yes,
And it just doesn't end well. It doesn't end
that's
well
right.
because when we do that as a parent, again, always age appropriate, maturity appropriate. We know that. Absolutely. That's a given. But as they get particularly into their adolescent years, protecting them from any and all painful experiences is definitely teaching them some things, but it's not teaching them how to be resilient. It's not teaching them how to navigate obstacles when you're no longer there, right? I mean, that's the,
Yes,
that's the whole goal as a
yes.
parent is to work yourself out of a job. At least that's how I see it, right?
I love that. You know,
Yeah,
that's
work
true.
yourself
I
out of a
love it.
job. You want to have an adult relationship with them when they become an adult. I mean, at some point that parent label expires in terms of the mentoring, the modeling for their personal development. Because once they become an adult, you can still do some mentoring and things, but you know what? It has to be at their request to be successful. They
Yes,
come back to you and ask you life questions or how do I buy a house or how do I do this or navigate this situation? Yes, absolutely. You can continue in mentoring them, but the parenting part is kind of over. So I think,
agreed.
having a different approach to what success, like what is it going to look like when you feel like you believe that you've done the best that you could do in your parenting role. And I think that's how you could identify success.
Yes, I love that. Absolutely. I love the way you talked about sheltering them from everything because we're not going to always be there. And in order to be a productive adult, you have to know how to deal with, difficult things, difficult situations, workplace, all types of things. And if they're not equipped, then they're going to have a hard time if they're protected from everything. So I agree. It
Absolutely.
builds that perseverance, and grit, resilience and
Hmm.
everything. I love that. And it lets them know Mom and dad had challenges. I'm having challenges too. That's just part of life. It's normal.
That's
We don't
right.
always want to have issues and obstacles, but
That's
you have to
right.
know how to do it. And then those things do lead you to your passion and where your calling is. So, love that, love that, love that. Many parents struggle with balance. How does your book help parents strike a healthy balance between discipline, encouragement, and you mentioned this a little bit, independence?
Yeah, absolutely. So those things are all there. They all have their place: discipline, encouragement, and then ultimately independence. Absolutely. The word balance always gives me reason for pause because I don't think it's possible. Like, I just don't think it's possible. So, if it's not possible, then what is it we're really asking when people use that word and talk about it? Work life balance, parenting balance, all that. We hear it, but I believe it's not even really achievable, nor should it be a goal because it becomes a heavy taskmaster. Like when you're chasing something that's not possible, frustration is going to set in, and that's going to be about it for that. So therefore, instead of finding balance in these things, we can reframe it more as embracing a rhythm. Embracing a rhythm. So that's true in life, it's true in parenting, whatever it is you're doing. So it reframes this to make it more flexible, that becomes part of the ebb and flow of family life. So whether you have one child or five children, there is an ebb and a flow in family life. What I mean by that is you acknowledge that there are priorities, and those priorities shift. Some days we have to focus on work, some days on kids, some days on self-care, but there's never going to be a one third, one third, one third, right? And that's kind of the picture that we get when we say the word balance, and it just doesn't ever happen that way. So what can we do? This approach that I'm talking, this ebb and flow, what does that approach encourage? Well, first of all, it means priorities. So we just have to prioritize. For example, ask the question, what needs attention most in any given moment? That might be a child's needs, your own personal well-being, or work. And in those moments, the other areas take a back seat. But here's the key word: temporarily. Now, you're in a danger zone when any of those things take a back seat permanently or semi permanently, right? You never go back and revisit them. There are people who put their personal well-being and self-care in the back seat, and they don't they don't revisit it until they're an empty nester, right? Those
Correct.
people.
Yes,
No,
that's
that's
burnout.
not healthy, right? That's
No,
that's
that's
not
burnout.
healthy. Yeah.
Yes.
A second thing is accept that there are trade offs. And again, that goes back to this ebb and flow, just the concept of trade offs. So when you give time to one aspect of life, that means there's less for another. And that's okay when you're making the conscious choices to do that. And then no matter what area is taking prominence or precedent in the moment, stay present in that. Like, it doesn't help you to say, okay, right now I'm intentionally accepting the trade off that I need to work with my kids on tackling a project that they're on, but yet my mind is going to be on a work thing, a work conflict, right? It's so staying present in whatever it is you've made the decision that needs priority. Stay present in it. Those other things will get their turn, right? They'll come up in the queue. And then lastly, I would say realizing that we all just have to make adjustments. So these seasons of parenting, they change so dramatically from, when our children are very, very young, infants, toddlers, young children, and then they go through adolescence, all of those things, life circumstances, unexpected challenges, all of those things that we need to be fluid with and adapt without feeling like we've failed at this whole mythical balance thing. So, um, to me, all of those things are very, very healthy strategies for how do we give things in our life that happen the prominence they need for the season they need to be prominent, and never put any of these other things in the back seat permanently. And I think you'll find what you need if you do those things.
I like that. And I like the taking away from the balance. I think sometimes we're like the on a treadmill. You're trying to run and chase a balance, and then you burn yourself out because you're trying to do too much. As a parent, you just never, you're right. You can't find a balance. It's really hard, but an ebb and flow makes sense. This is calm time. This is a busy time, and then just adjusting that. So I love that instead of balance, having an ebb and flow. I think if we have more ebb and flow, we can prioritize, be present, and just ride the wave of life and parenting
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to have so many demands where you're trying to meet demands because with balance comes demands. I love that. That was your book and talking about that, but not only are you your author, a mom, a coach, a mentor, leader, educator, you're also a podcaster as
Yeah.
well. So tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, I would love to. So this is a great story, actually. Last year, I built a new house and moved back home to the Panhandle of Florida. And my real estate agent for my builder has become a beautiful friend. And we were actually standing in my new house before it was completed, just kind of chatting one day. And this was a number of months ago. And she said, we were just talking about some spiritual things, some spiritual growth things, and I'm just sharing, out of my heart. She loved it, and she said, I could just listen to you. You need to start a podcast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, do I want to do that? And she was so sweet. And Christmas rolled around, and really hadn't done anything with it. It got moved in the house, and the next thing I know, she's like, I've got a housewarming gift for you, Lynn. And I'm like, oh my gosh. She bought me a, pretty pricey, brand new Shure microphone for podcasting. I'm like, okay, so you're
I
you're gonna
love
make
it.
sure I do this, right?
She's
And her
equipping you.
comment was so sweet. She said, hey, I just want to invest in the spreading of the gospel. So
I
that was
love it.
just awesome. So yeah, I had the idea come then for the podcast is called Living the Word Out Loud. The word, of course, refers to God's word. I was actually about to go to sleep one night, and before I'd started the podcast, and I was just kind of, like praying about this podcast. And I thought, it's really all about how do I take God's word and just like apply it, in my everyday life. Like I was want to talk out loud to people about it. And it's like, whoa, there it is, living the word out loud. So that's kind of how the title came. And it just really stuck because that's exactly what I talk about. So I do various topics. Some people ask me to do certain topics. Others I just pray about, keep, jot down things, and really just some of the challenges we have in everyday life and what God's word has to say about that. And so I've been doing that a few months now. It's just been a blessing and a joy to do it. And actually, you can find it on Spotify and also Apple Podcasts.
Awesome. So living out loud. Let's go ahead and shift to all of your information for our listeners for them to know how to contact you. They want to order a copy of Raising Kids That Succeed, especially with it being back to school time as we get ready to jump into a new school year, the 2025-2026 school year. And then how can they connect with you on Facebook and listen to the podcast? So I have your slide up. So go ahead and just tell us how we can order books and
Yeah.
connect and contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. So for ordering books, you can do that just right through my email, lynn@lynnwicker.com. And I will also say that you mentioned back to school. Here we are, trudging through July, but it's just around the
Yes.
corner all over the
Yes.
place. I have actually done some mini seminars or speaking engagements on the topic of the book that we discussed today for parent groups, various groups, church groups, and all that sort of thing. So I'm available for that as well, but definitely can email me about ordering books. And then I have a Facebook page that I provide some resources. And then you've got my podcast links there. So all in all, it's just been a joy journey that I've been on. And, just sharing the benefit of the experiences that I've had, both challenges and very positive things, and all the relationships. I think for my journey, it's just such a joy to be able to talk to people and express to them, hey, you're going to make it. You're going to be okay. I feel very strongly in the power of God's word in our lives and how we can live according to that. And it makes parenting and everything else just go so much more smoothly.
And I absolutely, absolutely love that. Well, thank you. Thank you for being a guest today. We'll have all the information on the EduFaith Essentials YouTube page for listeners to go and go to follow the Facebook page, access the podcast links, and the email address to order the books. Thank you for being a guest today, Dr. Wicker.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to catch back up with you.
Oh, always. You know, I love you.
Oh, love you too, girl.
All right. Thank you. In addition to Dr. Wicker's wonderful resources, I also want to encourage you to explore my resources, the Essential Tips series, the Essential Tips books. We have Essential Tips for Special Education Leaders, educators, coordinators, or parents. These are great books for back to school to gift your teachers and leaders, coordinators, and parents as we start the new school year. All books are available on Amazon, so let's level up and glow up and get essential. Now it's time for our word of wisdom for today's episode. And it's all about parenting as we kick off the back to school season and the positivity of parenting. And it aligns with raising kids that succeed. And the quote is, parenting is about raising and celebrating the child you have, not the child you thought you have. And that is from Brene Brown, who is a wonderful author as well. Let's embrace our children. Let's love our children as we kick off the school year, whether you're a leader in a school, a teacher in a school, or a parent getting ready to send your baby to school. Let's love our children and raise them all together. It takes a village. Now it's time to share. I enjoy connecting with listeners, offering advice, and answering questions and sharing inspirational stories. I want to use this platform to share and care essential advice. It's your turn to ask for advice or share good news. The letters will remain anonymous and the stories will be featured on the podcast. Sharing is caring. Please email me at edufaithforall@gmail.com. That is EDUFAITH, the number 4, ALL@gmail.com. All listeners should adhere to district policies, follow protocols, remain ethical, and adhere to guidelines in the best interest of children. EduFaith Essentials does not assume responsibility or is legally liable for anyone's actions based on the information in this podcast. Before I go, I want to invite you to subscribe to www.edufaithconsulting.com to stay connected and informed. When you subscribe, you'll receive a monthly newsletter packed with fresh resources, leadership tips, and an insightful blog to support your growth as an educator, leader, or parent. www.edufaithconsulting.com. Scroll down, enter your email address, and click subscribe. Don't forget to check out and subscribe to the EduFaith Essentials YouTube page, where you'll find practical videos, interviews, and essential strategies designed to empower your work and purpose. Let's grow together, stay connected, and stay equipped. Get essential. At EduFaith Educational Services, we are committed to equipping families, educators, and leaders with tools, training, and support they need to thrive in today's educational landscape. In addition to our podcast, we provide a wide variety of educational services designed to address the needs of parents, support with disability services, meeting advocacy, service explanations, educators, guidance, coaching, professional development, and leaders, training, professional coaching, leadership coaching, and support with diverse learners and programs. We also specialize in college and accommodation advocacy, including SAT and ACT accommodation support, college and career readiness coaching, and parent education training for schools, organizations, and community groups. Our expertise extends to program development and review, including Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Section 504, and inclusive practice frameworks. We offer customized professional development for schools, districts, nonprofits, and businesses focused on supporting diverse learners and inclusive education. EduFaith is also proud to offer trainings based on our impactful Essential Tips book series, including Essential Tips for Special Education Leaders, Essential Tips for Section 504 coordinators, and Essential Tips for parents and educators. These sessions provide practical strategies, compliance guidance, and leadership insight grounded in real work experience and align with current educational policies. Go to www.edufaithconsulting.com to see what EduFaith can do to support you. Don't forget to follow EduFaith on social media to stay connected, inspired, and informed. Join us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, the EduFaith Essentials YouTube page, TikTok, and other social media platforms for daily tips, encouragement, upcoming events, and behind-the-scenes updates. Whether you're a parent, educator, or a leader, our social media platforms offer valuable content, community engagement, and practical strategies to support your journey. Stay in the know and be a part of the movement. Follow EduFaith today. As we close out, I want to thank you for listening to today's episode, and thank you for staying connected to the EduFaith Essentials podcast. Don't miss a moment to listen to the EduFaith Essentials podcast on your favorite platforms, including Pandora, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all other podcast platforms, including Buzzsprout. All links to the podcast and information is easily accessible on the EduFaith Essentials YouTube page. Tune in, subscribe, and join us as we inspire and equip you every step of the way. Dr. Nikia here signing off, reminding you to be the light, be the change, love someone. Let's restore faith in education one student at a time, and let's get essential.